Hey, practice owners, welcome back to our 10th chapter edition of Million Dollar Dentistry by worldwide best-selling author Gary Cady. Gary, how you doing?
Oh man, Steve, what a run. 10 of these sessions.
It is
Amazing.
hard to believe.
Yeah,
We started out, and you can see this is my well-worn copy, with my chapter tags and that kind of thing. And yeah, holy cow, look at this thing. Seventh edition. What is this? 2006. The cool thing is, like we talked before, everything you wrote originally in 2006 applies today. If you're going to try and take your, go from, we'll kind of, as people start to come in here, we'll recap real quick before we get into the meat of it. But, we started out with a day in the life of Larry DDS, sort of the typical dentist. Yep. Who wants to grow a successful, profitable practice and walk through to where we are now, which is attaining the next level in your practice. So, which I'm pretty excited. I hate to wrap that part up, and we'll give a little surprise here at the end. What we're going to do, maybe some tack-on chapters that we'll tease a little bit at the end, and then a way to get the book yourself. As people are coming in here, Gary, I wanted to remind them, ask questions. We're going to answer a few questions as we go. This episode is going to be a little bit different, and it's kind of a wrap up. But ask your questions. There's no silly question. Two things that are important about that. One, we will try to answer them as here tonight, as we record, or as we are live. We'll record it, and then if we don't get it now, you'll call in the morning, or you people will email, but everybody will get their question answered, I guess, is what it boils down to. So
you bet.
So we will have your question, even if we don't talk about it tonight. Don't think you're gonna, click it and it's gonna disappear on the internet. Your question will get answered. So keep asking them. It looks like we're getting a little bit of a full room. So if you want to jump in, kind of, if you would, just take a quick minute. Again, this is the wrap up. So give us an idea of where Million Dollar Dentistry came from. Again, it starts with Larry DDS. Kind of an average doc, and how you got the idea and sort of where this all came from.
Yeah, Steve, first, it's so good to be back with you for our 10th session. I love our time each month. It's one of my highlights. I love being with you and your community and at the Profitable Dentist. And I've met so many amazing people from Australia, Jamaica, Calgary. I mean, all around the world, and then all of the 50 states over the last 10 months. And I got to tell you, man, your community of docs are really, they're ahead of the curve. They care, they want to make a difference, and they don't want to continue doing the same old, because they know that it's like, they're just sick and tired of doing the same thing over and over. So, it's just been a privilege and a pleasure. And where my whole work, the body of work that we've been talking about was born, was that it all goes back to dentists leave dental school ill-equipped to run a business. And they don't enjoy that side. They just so many times say, if I could just have a systematic process that my team would buy into and deliver on a regular basis, have a happy team, attract a good group of people. A lot of our dentists were not trained in management and they're being managers, Steve. Like, it's amazing how many dentists I see as leaders, managers, dentists, moms, they're trying to do it all. And it's insane. It's just insane. So the system that I built here, I realized, like, where I got into this business, a lot of people want to know, I had a marketing firm that brought patients to the front door of dental practices. So imagine getting 100 new patients from the marketing I'm doing, and they can't pay their bills. That was when I had my light bulb moment. And I realized what dentists needed, Steve, was not so much marketing, is that's where they go. They go to, I'm going to solve all my problems if I just had the right new patients right now. And then what they learn very quickly is we can bring the new patients to them, but if they don't stay, if they don't accept treatment, if your team's not on board, if you have missing team members, very, very difficult in order to, run a business. And right now it's been really, challenging to do that. And so what I realized was I sat in everyone's chair, Steve, everyone's chair.
Mhm.
I sat as an assistant. I presented cases. I answered the phones. I don't have a license to be a dentist, but I sat as the heart and soul of a dentist next to men and women who do the work. I'm not a hygienist, but man, I sat there and I listened. And, by the way, I'm a really bad dental assistant, Steve. I'm bad. I'm going to let you know, Steve.
No judgment, judgment-free
All right.
zone right here.
Thank you, buddy. Because look, but here's the thing. I learned so much by being a team member and by being, listening to patients when team member walked out and then what the patient said. So I analyzed all this and I got to see that the traditional business model being deployed by a dental practice, you can't outrun it. You can't get ahead of it. It's impossible. So I flattened it. I rebuilt a business model. We've installed this in over 6,000 practices, increase the revenue over $1 billion, weeks more off, days less per week. And now it's just a systematic process that I get to travel all around the world and deliver this message to people. And it is pure joy. And that, to hear the people now retiring that have been deploying this for 20 years, Steve, like 20 years, like going, thank you. I get texts all the time. I get direct messages like, thank you. My life has changed. And I never knew that would be possible for a little street kid from Jersey who wrote this in his Hoboken apartment, thinking that nobody would ever read it. Now we're in 37 countries, 150,000 copies. And I just met with somebody from Austria who's using the system, somebody from Afghanistan who's using the system. So mind blowing, Steve.
Well, and you said it. Dental school doesn't prep. So most of the docs who are listening tonight, again, 8.5 out of 10 of them are the practice owner. And I always like to say, their education as a dentist ended at graduation, but the 8.5 out of 10 of them who decided to move on and be a practice owner, their education began on that day. And or they might have had a course or two, in fourth year, and it's simple. You just hang a sign on the side of the building that says dentist, and shazam, you're magically, you're a successful dentist. And while that might have happened a generation or two ago, it just doesn't happen today. Insurance didn't exist. A lot of the things that they fight today didn't exist, and they're not educated, they're not trained, they're not prepared. And as we said sort of at the open, these are common things that if you go to business school, you just know. It's just, that's all you're taught is how business runs. When this happens, do that. As a clinician, you're not taught any of this. So what I've always thought is, and you tell me your sort of opinion of it. You've worked with a lot of practices. The simple things get made really big and really complicated, and they lay awake at night, 3:30 in the morning, trying to figure out something really simple because it's foreign to them. Taxes are foreign, interest is foreign to them. HR should be, I don't know, hire a front desk person and they magically become the world's best front desk person. And they don't. Yeah. You have to culture that. You have to nurture that. And if you don't know how to do that, then yes, it becomes a mountain. And then there's the mountain of finance, and there's a mountain of the next thing, and the mountain of the next thing, and it overwhelms them. So one of the things that I like about your book is that it's a good, quick read. It's broken down into these 10 chapters that are, the life you're entitled to lead, CPR, cash in your pocket now, what you should really be doing with your hygienist. One of my favorite ones, if you haven't read the book, chapter 4, it's not what you think. Spoiler. Why your team hates you. There's a fortune in your storage closet. Turn your payroll into a profit center. These are all things that every practice owner who went to dental school and not business school finds insurmountable, but they're not. So it's one of the things I appreciate about the book. And I wanted to make sure, again, we got a couple questions popping in. So I'll make sure that happens. And we promise to answer them all, whether live tonight, afterwards, you can watch it on a follow-up recording, or Gary will answer via email or call sometime after this. Not tonight, but sometime after this. So let's kind of start out here. We got a couple things about practice success that really is wrapping all these up into the final chapter, attaining the next level in your practice. And I know next level, it's a little bit of an overused term. It's practically your name. And a lot of people think, oh, it doesn't mean anything. But in dentistry, it really is. It's almost the difference between struggling and not struggling. And it's not as simple as, buy a new piece of equipment or buy a new material like you're taught clinically.
Yeah.
And Shazam, it just happens. It's really more of an approach. It's a mindset. It's the way you look at your practice. And so if you could just start with sort of the deserve part. I know we've covered a couple early chapters.
Yeah.
And I want to say here about practice success. I'm looking at some of these things. In fact, let's do this. Here's a question to start with.
Okay.
And it's somebody, and I can tell a couple of these people watched a few episodes. And if you haven't, go back and watch as many as you can. There are 10. This says, I try to stay positive. I take loads of CE every year. I read all the journals. I stay up on all the latest techniques, love my patients, and still find myself dreading what's going on wrong every day. What am I doing wrong? There's wrong 2 times in the same sentence. That sort of is where we started with Larry, right?
Yep. You bet. First of all, be kind to yourself, Doc. Really, just like begin with being kind to yourself. There's three things, Steve, that we really take on. Stop doing things you're not good at. Stop doing things you don't like doing, and remove toxicity from your environment if somebody's like counter intentional to you. And just know that it is hard to stay positive if you keep doing the same thing over and over and you don't have a future to live into. Like I dreaded going into my own business. I hated it. And what I realized is what I heard this doctor say is I take loads of CE every year. I read the journals. Yeah. Intellectualizing, and the word intellectualize ends in the word lies. Intellectualize. So what happens?
Write it down. A Garyism. There it is. I literally have, of all the Garyisms I've heard, I haven't heard that one. So keep going. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm writing that down.
Intellectualize, rationalize, right? They all end in lies. So what happens, Steve, is we're trying to outsmart things that need to be implemented. If you're not, information without implementation has no value. I'll say that again. Everything that was stated here is informational rather than implementational, if you want to say that.
Right.
And it's sort of like, I'm an armchair quarterback. I can call a game on a Sunday, or on a Monday, or like I can think about. See, I used to try to outrun things, outsmart things. And in today's world, if you don't have a proven system, a proven way of implementing this information, Steve, I work out in my head, just like this doc right here. Like I think when I'm smarter, I'm going to do better. I'm going to be more profitable. And that's not the equation. And taking CE, I'm a big believer in really developing your skill set, your hands, but there's a diminishing return. See, most docs default into and gravitate toward the clinical side, developing the clinical side. But what they do is then they're trying to do the math to have the profitability of a business entity, which is a different skill set, mindset, attack than getting better at, maybe doing ortho or maybe doing sleep dentistry or all those other things that you're trying to develop. Because there's so many docs that add ortho and sleep and all these other modalities, and they still don't have a team. They still are managing the practice themselves. They don't have a strategy. And I want to distinguish this too, Steve, here. I think it's appropriate. Okay. There's a difference between strategy and tactics. So I want to unpack this a little bit because in the meetings I have, and I'm still going to offer that after today's session, I'll offer a half hour of my time, Steve. So I just, want to let you know I'm going to do that for your community. Yeah. I'm really seeing a commonality, and I want to bring it out as we talk about, wrapping up before we're going to do 2 bonus chapters, which I'm excited about together, for our next 2 months. Steve, here's the thing. A lot of docs are in tactics. Like, I need somebody to do social media. Can you do my website? Like, those are tactical things. A strategy is an overarching plan of action that will help you land your outcome. And you might not have to touch any of it. See, doctors think, also another myth that I'm dealing with, they think they have to do it to have it. And it's not necessarily true. Actually decentralizing the doc, putting in a strategy, one strategy trumps 1,000 tactics. So I want to unpack this for a second, because this is the first element of content here, Steve. When I say one strategy trumps 1,000 tactics, what do you hear when I say that? I want to make sure I'm being clear for our listeners tonight.
And for you and I, it's a little different. And that's comfortable for you and me.
Right.
I know exactly, to me, there's an overarching strategy. So I'm going to add something. While you were talking, here's what I thought.
Yeah.
For their dentist mindset over here, the clinical mindset, the strategy is, I'm going to be a dentist and I'm going to learn a bunch of junk about dentistry. And tactically, I'm going to decide that I love crown and bridge. I hate removables, so I'm not going to do them. I'm going to I like this sleep and I'm going to integrate it. And tactically, all you're doing is adding under that umbrella, that one big strategy of being a dentist.
Yes.
And your business sort of works the same way. They just don't get that. They don't see that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very good. And like, I want to highlight something that you said. A lot of dentists, if that's your strategy, you have a job inside of a business that is not performing to the degree that you wanted to. So you're getting more job out of it. What we want to do is position you as an entrepreneur. And the strategy then is the business puts off revenue, not your hands, right? So if the strategy is to, I'll give you an example. The strategy is to, there's 3, I like this CARE strategy, I call it. We've highlighted it in a few episodes. CARE stands for case acceptance, retention, and the experience and acquisition of new patients. If you take a CARE strategy and do all 3 of those and put in a system for all 3 of those, you get 3 times the results that you would if you're a dentist trying to get better at your clinical skills. Because if you don't plug the back, like, you have a leaking boat, and if you don't plug the back and you keep throwing new patients at it, and you think tactically you need to have a better social media strategy, all you're doing is spending money on the front end and it's going out the back end. Right. Yeah. And that's not a good strategy. So a good strategy is retain your team, educate your team. They help retain your patients, right? When your patients are retained and they come through hygiene, then you can present cases to them, present treatment to them because they're in the chair. And then when you have a strategy to close that dentistry into your schedule, now all of a sudden you have a strategic plan, and you can then have key performance indicators to know proactively where the inefficiency is. So this is a key element in really breaking this out, where it's like this doctor who is doing, look at where the doctor is looking to get their solution, taking loads of CE. Let me just read the question here. Taking loads of CE, reading all the journals, staying up with the latest techniques, and loving your patients, but you hate going to your office. And what are you doing wrong? It's really simple. You just need a business model and become a systematic entrepreneur, and then you can be a dentist inside your business.
I've always felt like it's not the dentistry they hate. It's the business that they have to run to be able to do the dentistry.
Yes.
And again, that education started the day that dental school ended. And if you didn't, nurture it and take the right courses in the last 10 years, it is a daily struggle. And you and I have talked about this. One of the things I want to make sure that people know, we're going to give them a way to get the book. And Gary, I do have the one of the 7th edition. So just to let you know, I just keep this for sentimental reasons.
Here's the 5th, Steve. Look at this young guy.
Who's that handsome guy?
We got the 6th edition.
Well, the neat thing about this book is, and I wanted to make sure people know when they get it, I've got down here, and I looked while you were talking. Chapter 2 goes into exactly what you're talking about. There is a list of 16 things that a successful practice owner must believe. And you are very big, if we can take one quick minute and talk about some of the early chapters about your healthy deserve level and what you
Yep.
believe you deserve,
Yep.
which sounds, when you first read it, I think the first time you read it, you say, yeah, I think I deserve it. But let me get on to the thing I can buy and make it and hand it to my office manager and make it all go away.
Yep.
And that's not how it works. You have
Yep.
to not be confident in your clinical skills. That's important.
Yes.
And you have to have that. But there's a whole different mindset about what you think you deserve, why you're in business to begin with.
Yeah.
Can you kind of cover that? And you've got a list of 16 that are great. We're not going to cover all 16.
Right.
Get the book. But kind of talk about what healthy deserve and what that really means.
That's this one, Steve.
There you go.
That's this.
It's a whole book.
Well, it comes on the backside of $1 Million Dentistry, because what I learned was 99% of my dentists, once they made their money and had the time, the free time, they filled the time so they had no more time, and they spent and squandered all their money. So I'm a street kid from Jersey, came from very humble beginnings, and I was doing the same thing. When I noticed, like, when I had great relationships, I would kill them off and sabotage them. When I wanted free time and I created free time, I would fill time just with a bunch of nothing. And then I had no free time. Once I made money, I got rid of it. So it had money with wings. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to retire. And then I had a breakthrough moment. I realized that in life and in practice, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you think you deserve, nothing more, nothing less. So watch what happens. We help dentists grow 25, 30% within 1 year, ethically, systematically, gradiently. They get that. And then I didn't have a curriculum on the backside of this. They would start dismantling everything. And it would happen 9 out of 10 times. And I'm like, that is not, see, Steve, I'm known as a consultant. I call it a consultant. I'm not a con man, but we're known as con men, right? Mm-hmm. So, and people have consultant fatigue. They hate dealing with consultants, and I don't blame them. And here's what I've learned. We make sure we have a person who is open and willing to do the work, to look in the mirror, to see blind spots that they couldn't see. And this is the biggest one. If you don't think you deserve to have more money, have more time, have more love, have more connection with people, have an A team. By the way, deserve levels go up and down in different domains. I didn't think I deserved to have a world-class office. I mean, my team will tell you, we were in like little telephone booths. I didn't want to spend the money. I didn't want to renovate. I didn't care. Like, I was like really like, it looked like I was cheap, but really what was underneath it was I didn't think I deserved to have a nice office. And now I'm in my studios in Rock Center. Jimmy Fallon's right here. Saturday Night Live's here. I had to flip the switch, and the voice that told me I didn't think I deserved it, I had to have a new relationship to the conversation that was coming in my head. Now, this is theoretic. I know it's hard for, specific doctors who are methodical in thinking, but if you can actually shift your mindset and be open to receive. One of the things that we've learned, Steve, in healthy deserve level is keeping people open, keeping them open. Because when you stay open, for those doctors that are dealing with low fee schedules, giving away dentistry, high accounts receivable, those are all symptomatic issues of this chronic issue underneath it all that says, I don't deserve to get paid this money for this service. And we correct this with the doctor, with treatment coordinators, because the treatment coordinator goes, I know this is expensive, but you're not closing cases if you start your conversation with that. And 9 out of 10 treatment coordinators are presenting that way. Now, this is like stuff I learned the hard way and invented a distinction called healthy deserve level. And now my teams go, hey, I raised my HDL. Oh, that was a low HDL conversation. So once you distinguish it and give it a name, then you can manage it. And it is so profound, Steve. I can't tell you how many people have had breakthroughs in this. Somebody already all the way down to somebody that has been married 3 times. she called me up and she goes, I have a bad picker. I didn't think I deserved a good man. Once I read your book and I realized that it was just that I had a low deserve level for a relationship. I've been in relationship for 7 years now, and I'm not going to lose this guy. That's
And
profound.
it is, and it really again, I'm always struck by, you went to dental school, and I think it happens about the first year out. You come out and you know everything, and then the money part starts,
Yep.
and suddenly, and student loans become due, and if you start a little practice, you start learning about taxes the next year, and you learn about insurance write-downs, and you learn about all that tactical stuff, and you do a great job in the book of giving lists of things to do. What I like best about that, I think that's probably in chapter 2, is the
Yep.
life you're entitled to lead, starts off with that mindset that, listen, this list is awesome, and you can hand it to an office manager and you can tinker through it and you can say, I'm the boss and I'm the leader. But you hit that nail on the head. If you don't believe you're a successful business person, not just a good dentist. And I always say, I know when I speak, I always ask for a raise of hands, and I say, how many dentists in this room got a diploma when they graduated? And they all raise their hand. And I say, how many of you took an exam and your state said you're good enough to be a dentist here in Minnesota? And they raise their hand, and I say, awesome. We're going to quit talking about that stuff. You have got to park the clinical piece and get over to the business piece. And that's the weird part that I see, Gary, is they're confident in their clinical skills.
Yep.
But when something gets, like the first question here, gets a little janky on, in the morning, it throws everything off. And it really is how they look at themselves. You said something here. I'm going to tie this before I forget it. I've got somebody who said, and you and I, we've done this enough that I know I probably know your answers before they come, and we see a lot of them. And anybody listening, please keep putting your questions in. Is there a course on finance you recommend to help me not always worry about money? And you and I, again, we're business people. We understand we're in business to make money. Whatever it is we do, that's why we exist. But we didn't go to dental school to be a dentist, and now find out, holy cow, what do you mean I got to make money? The landlord thinks you do. The people who give you a practice loan think you do. All those people really just care about the money. So you talk about in chapter 3 and a couple of chapters, your relationship with money, which I think layers on top of your healthy deserve level. Can you sort of answer that question and then talk a little bit about and obviously there are lots of courses, but you can't watch a half-hour YouTube and say, Shazam, I've got a great relationship with money now. So you kind of dig in or unpack that one. Is there a course on finance about money?
Yeah, there is. We built one, and the reason why we built it is because we as a company have taken on a mission to get 250,000 dental professionals debt-free by the year 2030. So stay with me here. Keyword: dental professionals, dentists and their teams. So often people are not tending to their teams. And this is really vital right now and where we are today of retaining team members. When you take care of their well-being, and financial well-being as part of that, and offer a bonus system that you're willingly sharing the new increase on the revenue on new money. We talk about bonusing on new money. This is money that didn't exist, because when you get your team doing what you want them to do and you reward them and give them that dopamine shot every day, and then you show them how money, the flow of money, money, having wealth and being debt free is the same thing as dieting. It's really the same thing. It's like money in and money out, calories in, calories out. You either burn them or you don't. And it's like, there's an algorithm, there's a natural flow, but we don't do those things. So there's a structure that for the people that I couldn't count on myself with money. Right. So I have strengths around how to generate money. I'm really good, but how to, if I have it, I love Panerai watches. I love Ferragamo shoes. I love Porsche cars, I'm not the latte guy, save $5 a day and you're going to be rich. I'm not into that. Right. But there is a step-by-step process around money that is when someone else knows how to walk you through that system. And by the way, your listeners can use the half hour with me if they want to. The person that asked that question about a course, I'll give you a specific course and I'll give you the tools that we use so that you can, it's a 5-step process. Step number 1 is to know where you stand. Cause I'll tell you, Steve, it's so funny about people with like money issues. They don't even know where they stand with their money. Once I say like, what specifically do you want? Right. And they go, I want to be debt free by this time. And all of a sudden it's like, we can reverse engineer. Everything we do is we start, where do you want to end? That's the end point. See, a lot of people around money, Steve, don't start like they're working on the means to get there. Like if I just had another associate or if I added another operatory, those are all means goals. There's no ends goals. Like if you tell me I want to be debt free by this time, and then there's just a 5-step process of discovery, blank slate, getting rid of some old myths. Like you think you have to work more hours to get a certain place. So you have some fixed ideas or some myths in your head about how to do it. So we have to clear those out. Then we co-create a plan. Then we put in agreements and then we measure, monitor, and make it go right. It's a very simple system. But if you're caught in the emotion of it and you're caught in the suffering of it and you're caught in the I don't knows about it and the what ifs about it, you'll never get to the outcome. And Steve, this is the reason why we took on getting 250,000 dental professionals financially free and debt free by 2030 is because, Steve, the stats don't lie. The ADA says that since 2001, the retirement age went from 62 to 69, that income has been flat for dentists for the last 10 years. And, it's just only 4% retire financially free. That is unacceptable. 4%. What that means is that your assets spew off more money than you have in liabilities. And so, meaning, imagine not having to work ever again. That is totally possible. But if you don't think you deserve that, you don't think you deserve to have the money and have a life and have your business do it and have an A team. When I try to give it to you, I'm a consultant. Like I'm trying to force me on you. We don't do that. What I do is I make sure that they're set up to receive it. This rids procrastination. This rids, action taking, risk taking. You take, calculated risks when your life over there is going to be better than the one that's over here. See, Steve, where people get stuck is they want to hang out with the devil they know versus the devil they don't. And when you work with somebody that is proven and has walked people down this path 6,000 times, then you can then trust it and it reduces risk for those risk adverse out there. I designed my program, Steve, for the non-confrontational, risk adverse, control freak perfectionist.
I'm going to write that down.
All right. Non-confrontational.
Right. I think that's a dentist.
Yeah. Non-confrontational.
Yep.
Control freak.
Yep.
Perfectionist.
Right.
That hates to sell stuff.
Right. There's a lot of conflict. What do they say? Left brain, right brain. There's a lot of left brain, right brain conflict going on in there, which is probably why, the first person here hates going into work every morning. They just want to do the dentistry. And
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No.
Here's what's going on with there. This is like what's going on. So this person can identify. They're out of integrity with what their picture is of the ideal. And they've defaulted because they don't like confronting. They don't like selling stuff. They don't like dealing with people. They want to just do dentistry. And then they hope it all goes away and changes. It doesn't. I've yet to see this go away by itself. Really. And the only time it does is when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired and dreading. When the pain of looking at the reality of your life and your practice is greater than your fear to raise your hand and ask for help. By the way, that's a strength, not a weakness. Get with somebody you respect, know, and love. If it's me, great. If it's not, it's any one of those guys behind you, on the covers of every profitable dentist magazine, all the titans of dentistry behind you that darn it, just get somebody, because here's the thing. they'll help you land this plane and you'll have a life that you love. Not someday. This happens the minute you choose to say, I'm making my world unacceptable, that it's unacceptable. All they did was they made the unacceptable acceptable, Steve. That's what they did. And then they sat in the soup and looked to validate at their study clubs. Hey, does your life suck? My life sucks. Do you dread going into work? I dread going into work. They look for the validation of that poo. And it's like, just cut it out and say, take charge right now and just say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just sick and tired of it, but I'm going to take an action that I haven't taken before. And I'm going to get on the court. And now the minute you do that and you know it's safe, and then you take the actions and make those decisions, that's the best course on money flow, is taking new actions. You want the course, change your thought, move a muscle, change a thought, move a muscle, change a thought, move a muscle that you wouldn't normally move in the direction of freedom and peace and joy and abundance.
Well, and yeah, and the cool part is, so anybody who's watching, we're going to tell you at the end how you can get a little bit of time with Gary, and which I think is very valuable. We're also going to tell you how to get the book. It won't look like that. You got to go to eBay to get this. These are bidding up around $2 or $3 grand right now, first editions. But the new edition, we'll get it in your hands, and it has a lot of lists and blueprints and the things you can do. Gary gives you a blueprint. What you can, and you can get the ideas. He'll explain how it works, but what you don't get is just that sort of reinforcement. Is that exactly what you said? Instead of going to a study club and saying, this sucks and I can't find another assistant and that guy stole my hygienist, and you got all that drama going on, it puts you in a more positive space. And money's a big part of that. You and I are much alike there. I've been not poor. They say, what is it? Poor is a permanent condition. Broke is a state of mind. Maybe I have that backwards. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Poor is a state of mind. Broke is a temporary condition. I've been broke.
Yeah.
And I've had,
me too.
Been successful. And I can tell you, having money in the bank is way better.
Oh, yeah.
But I can also tell you this, having lived through some tough times, and some of it like we're going through now, struggling, most of the time you're in your own way. And once you figure out how to get out of it once, it's just easier. I was talking to somebody this morning about the recessions, and, they said, gee, the mindset is it's gloom and doom. And, right now what I hear is I can't find staff and this is happening. And now I got to buy PPE and, I'm struggling with all these things. That's going to happen in business. It's part of it. But it happens every however many years. And I've lived through about 3 of them. And during the 80s, I doubled my business while everybody else was talking gloom and doom. I learned my mindset and literally doubled the business. So money is not the end goal, but it sure makes you not dread going in the morning.
Well, I use money as a scoreboard for the difference I'm making in the lives of people. If I look, there's 2 types of places, the way to make money. You're either a value creator or a value consumer. Like when you're consuming the value that's being produced, or you're a value creator. And how to make money is to create value in the mind of another person and then offer them something that they can invest in, that they're going to get a return on investment in. It's very, very, very simple, but it gets very complicated. And we make profitability and wealth management simple and really everything simple. Like my grandfather always said, Steve, he said, Gary, the greatest teachers take complex things and simplify them, just like attorneys. No, I'm kidding. Attorneys take simple things like this thing, and then they put words to it. So you got to keep the clock going. That's not what this is.
They bill you by every 5 minutes. So
yeah, exactly. So Steve, law is law. I'm walking my sister through a divorce, and it's like, I can see the ecosystem created by the legal system. And the way it's designed that is a strategy. That is a system that I'm talking about. Now, if you could have a strategy and system called the legal system that just churns out dollars and has every ad, think about the billions of dollars that are spent on ads by attorneys and
Right.
all the ivory tower buildings that these guys and gals are in. It's an ecosystem. It's a strategy. It's a system.
Mhm.
Yes, some do good, but most of them are churning out stuff.
Mhm.
When you do the same thing in a dental practice, put a system in and let the system run, then you can be free to do the things you want. Like be clinically satisfied, have the wealth that you deserve, have a team that you love. And by the way, Steve, you said something profound. As entrepreneurs leverage the assets they have, and they're bigger than their circumstances. And I have the big, compassionate, empathetic heart for dentists. They become a victim to their circumstances. And they go, I've been, a year and a half without a hygienist. Make that unacceptable. And then find somebody who can solve that problem for you. And then, because if you apply the same strategy, you're going to get the same thing over and over again. The minute I share with them that there are amazing hygienists that are sitting on the sidelines looking for their calling and a match that matches their calling, then you're getting an A player and you speak to that calling, you're going to attract the right person. We've
Right.
taken hygienists who went into retirement and said, I had enough of this crap. And then happen to see an ad and they go, I didn't know that this type of job existed. So you're not thinking as a dentist, oh, I have to package my practice with a high purpose to attract people with a calling. You didn't go to dental school to figure that out. And they're not teaching them that at Spear and Coist. They're not. You can't out Coist and out Spear the strategies needed in today's dental world. Today's problems can't be handled by yesterday's solutions. They cannot. What's in this book are the fundamentals. If you don't have the fundamentals in place, this challenge that we're all these circumstances, it's going to unveil the areas that you need to go to work on in your business, Steve. That's all it is. It's a gift. It's not a pain in the neck. It's a gift. And it's the universe telling you, get to work on it because you could be ahead of the crowd. I have doctors that pivoted and cleaned up all this stuff. Steve, I have docs, them. They have a waiting list to go to work in their practices because they took on these strategies that we've been talking about.
And it's not because they pay them, it's not because they're paying, 1.5 times the average wage. A lot of times it's average or less. They're paying a fair amount, but it's a different job. You said it perfectly. I think the interesting thing would be, and I've had docs, I get those calls, I've been running an ad here for, 52 weeks and I'm not getting anything. And the entrepreneur in me says, I don't know, I would have stopped like 50 weeks ago, and they're complaining that 52 weeks later, well, if I needed somebody, I would have changed my game plan 50 weeks ago or 48 weeks ago, or I would have added something at 45, but I wouldn't be complaining 52 weeks later. On the other side of that, you've got a hygienist, you're exactly right, who doesn't want to work like he or she has worked for the last 25 years. And I know you have a lot of great terms. You whip them out like drill, fill, and bill. And, they wanted to, if you want somebody to do that kind of dentistry, that's where they retired from. Now you do a lot, and you allude to it a lot in the book about not necessarily take a course in sleep and Shazam, your practice turns around, but a mindset that allows you to treat a patient greater than their dentistry. And that's what I see in the people that work with you, is they don't just say, all right, we're going to double our crown production and, make a lot more money. Yep. They do stuff that they enjoy, and they don't do the stuff that they don't enjoy. And they attract the patients that match up with that. Just like the dentist who says, listen, I'm going to quit fishing here for a hygienist. And I'm going to say, look, I do this, this, and this. I'm looking for somebody who thinks that might be fun and exciting, and somebody's going to respond to that. But if you keep asking for the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same thing. I got a question. I don't know if you see popped up here. So I've got here, I circled chapters 3, 4, 6, and 7. You cover a lot of what we're talking about here. They're lists and blueprints and check this box and here's how to do it. But it says, what is it? A long-time viewer, first-time caller. Yeah. It says, I watched Why Your Team Hates You episode, and it completely changed how I see my team and my own role in leading them. Thanks, and
That's
some
cool.
gushy stuff. But that is
That's not
chapter
gushy, Steve.
4.
I live for that. My
The
love
gushy
language.
stuff.
My love language is, I used it. Thank you. Like, that's what gives me the juice to keep going, man.
And if you haven't, that is episode 5, chapter 5 in the book. So just what you're talking about there, kind of maybe expand on the team part. I know a lot of docs who are watching this, because there are a lot of questions. I'm just kind of rolling them up together,
Thanks,
and
Steve.
keep putting them in that are team related.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just need one good hygienist. I just need a good assistant. I just need, and if you're not getting them, it's not that that you're bad at it or you're doing something wrong. It's just you're doing something that's not working.
Yeah.
So quit doing that and do something else. But you do a lot in the book and with your clients about team attitude, not team protocol. You do that, but it's more how you look at your team and how your team sees you. Can you kind of, what did they say? Change how I see my team and my role in leading them. Can you kind of spend a quick minute on that? That's kind of the last couple of chapters are really about your team and your relationship with them.
Yeah, I had a team that hated me. I mean, literally hated me. And step number 1 of like not having your team hate you is not you be the, it's the carrot and the stick, right? So it's like, do not manage your people. Number 1. And it's really freeing because, as a small business owner, if I am the one who is managing my team, and I can't tell you, Steve, it's like 50% do not have a team leader. And it's okay because they failed at it or they don't think they have the right person and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I elevated myself as the CEO and put someone in between myself and my team, because I needed somebody to translate like what we needed in the business and what the team needs. You need a person that understands how to be a bridge to get a win-win situation. So that is like number 1 is like building out a team leader and empowering that person, and do not play good cop, bad cop. Like, people knew that I would crash and they would still come to me and I would bypass my team leader and they would lose all their power and then no initiative would happen. So breaking free from that, and then what I call lowering the center of gravity in your practice. Like we shared German Porsche. We love that. The reason why Porsches are fun to drive is because the center of gravity is so low and it sticks to the road, right? It's not one of those like those kind of old Jeeps that would tip over, right?
Right.
So lowering the center of gravity is freeing in a big way. The next thing is creating a doctrine for your business that isn't about you against them. It's about, here's what we stand for here. Here's our vision. Our vision is on a good day, we save a smile, and on a great day, we save a life. Our purpose behind our work is we're in the business of enhancing the quality of people's lives. Our values are proactive, responsible, accountable, transparent, integrity, compassion, and equality. So, by the way, that's an example of creating a manifesto and a doctrine that what it does is it takes the doctor out of the center, and the doctor's declaration for what they stand for exists. Then the team leader can map that out. When the team goes off the rails, you're not going, hey, you suck. You're going, how does your behavior fit inside of this doctrine? Now, all of a sudden, they have to show you how you're doing it. It's not like you're bad and wrong and I'm managing you. You're going, look at you, how you're operating doesn't fit. So let me give you something. I'm an alcoholic. I'm sober 13 years. I'm really proud of that. But the guy who I said, can you help me? He said to me, Steve, he said, Gary, he goes, if you want to get sober, no matter what I say to you is going to be right. If you don't want to get sober, everything I say to you is going to be wrong. So I took that, and he said, he convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I'm going to say that again because it's a little hard to get. She or he convinced against his will. So meaning, like, if my will was not to get sober, or like, then I'm holding on to that. He's wasting his time with me, and I'm going, I still don't want to be sober. I'm going to go out to drink. That's my will. So if I make a choice to get sober, I'm going to demand and listen for and train and do what he says. So the step number one on how to have your team not hate you is make sure that they're lined up with your vision, purpose, and values, and they fit inside of that. If they agree to that, then all you have to do is like, just flipper them a little bit to get them back on track. But if they're counter to what you stand for, you're going to be training somebody that's unwilling to be trained. They're not going to apply it, and you're wasting your time and money. And we vet all this, we clear all this stuff out. That's why our program works, because it first starts with the dentist. Are you committed to this? And then once we have that, then we get a team leader committed to it. Then we create the doctrine of how this business is going to run. And then if you're misaligned, no problem. You can choose to opt out. And we're going to get people that are willing to participate inside of this game. If you have one bad apple, it kills all the other ones out. I did the organizational behavior. I really study organizational behavior. People play down to the lowest level that you allow in your space. So remember this, Steve: skill set and attitude. 51% attitude, because you can't change a person's attitude. 49% of skill set. I've taken a low level of operator because they were dedicated and committed, and they're some of the best team members we have.
Mm-hmm. Once they're engaged, and again, you learn that in business school. It's not, and I've owned a lot of businesses, and early on you think, well, shoot, I just fire them and hire somebody else. Well, two things happen. One is I always see every person that I pick, I take a long time to hire, make sure we get a person. And you said it way better than I did. I always say, you can train skills, you can't train attitude. Or you can teach skills, you can't teach attitude. You can develop skills, you can't, and to some degree you can develop attitude, but it's hard. So get that right attitude that aligns with you on day one. And then it makes it easier as you go forward that you're all together. Most docs that, and you do talk about team. One of my favorite chapters, number 5, is Why Your Team Hates You, which again, you do a nice job of sort of flipping the titles, but they don't tell you, and they do. And in fact, sometimes you just hate your team and you pretend you don't, but they know you do. And all of you are just going through the motions. But wouldn't it be cool? And that's what I see with a lot of your people. And I know a lot of them, I've been to your meetings. They have a different sort of like an enthusiasm or an energy about it. And it's not that they just rah-rah their team. It's that they really are all in it together. And it's not that I pay my team, higher than anybody in the area, so I get the best team. It has nothing to do with that. And that's one of the coolest ones. We got a lot of response from that particular chapter. And I think a lot of listeners, a lot of practice owning docs tonight kind of go through the same thing, and they think it's impossible. And if nothing else, I do want to make sure that we sort of cover the theme of your chapter, of the 10th chapter in the book itself, is that, a successful dental practice doesn't just happen because you graduated at the top of your class in dental school. That means you're a good dentist, and that's all. Your successful and profitable practice, it's practically my middle name, happens because you make it happen. And one of the reasons I love the book and want to make sure that we do that here as we sort of wrap up is let people know where they can get that. You do a great job in the book of, I think, matching the whichever it is, the left brain, the protocol and the steps that you learned in dental school. If you're doing a crown prep, there's 27 steps you do in this way. And over here in business, you can't just say, all right, I'm just going to hire the best office manager. Well, what does that mean? Is that the highest paid person in the area? Because you and I have both seen somebody think they got a home run when they hired away an expensive office manager from the guy down the street, and it's a disaster for all three of them. But you do a really good job of that, plus the right brain, the emotional part of it. And, again, if you want to, we've got a couple minutes here. I want to make sure that people know how to get the book. You're going to see a little thing pop up here on the side that you can click the link, get the book. And also, as with every other episode, and I'm doing the math here, Gary, it's like, I don't know, Maybe half of your 6,000 practices came from these 10 episodes, but you were always very generous with just a conversation with a practice owner who says, hey, I read the book, or hey, I watched your episodes, and I have this question. Or more importantly, the ones that I think, because we talk about them and we know a lot of them. The interesting thing is they think it's impossible. And my favorites are, yeah, I'd like to talk to him, but I live out here. I live in, Nowheresville, Indiana, and, a little bitty town of 12,000 people. And I'm as big as I can ever get. And you've got a practice that you've worked with in New London, Ohio. Literally, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There are more cows than people. It's the entire place is 2,200 people. And great doc, Dr. Josh Merrill, good guy, doubled his numbers are astronomical. He has more patients than live in the town. and it's not because he's an awesome dentist clinically. It's because he runs his practice in a way that people just come to him. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think, if anything, when we have these conversations, I'd like docs who are listening to realize is wherever you are, maybe start from this. Whatever reason you think you can't do this, throw it at Gary. That's my challenge. When you're listening to this and you say, oh yeah, but if I was in New York City, sure I could, sure I could do a couple $1 million. Right. Talk to Josh Merrill. If I only had this, or if my dad was a dentist, that's why the guy down the street's successful, is his dad was a dentist. It might be, but it might not be. Yeah. So I always like to say, whatever reason you have in your head that you can't do this, that you can't do everything that's in the book, and what Gary says, challenge him. And I'll let you throw your time out here, how you do it and how much time you give to anybody who's listening. And I appreciate that you do that.
Yeah, we've had so many. I didn't realize, Steve, how many binge watchers we have. We have a lot of binge watchers out there. Yeah, and here's what they're telling me, like the last few months. Hey, Gary, I thought I had to have it all handled to call you. And it's almost like, I think of this. My wife works so hard, and I go, honey, I want to get you a maid service. Like, you shouldn't have to be cleaning our house. Let me get you a maid service, right? So the day before the maid service is coming, Steve, she's cleaning the house. I go, what are you doing? What are you doing? And here's what we want. Here's what we do as human beings. We think we have to have our act together to step on the court of play. And that's not necessarily true. In fact, my favorite calls are, hey, I want to challenge you with this because I've been dealing with this forever. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I need to have it all. I don't have this and I don't have this. I don't look for what people don't have. I look for what they do have. And just painting the picture of the things that they do have and the assets that we can leverage to get them where they want to be is like, you see the shoulders come down. They see that it's safe. Yeah. They don't have to worry. Like the human beings that spend hours and hours and sleepless nights worrying about things that they just don't need to anymore. Now, I understand it's like a drug to worry. I used to be a big worrier. It's actually a distraction to not be present. It's actually a safety mechanism that people use when they worry. And I get that, but like there's actually a place where you can have a quiet mind, be totally at peace, have all the money you need, have all the team that you need, standing in a place of what we call abundance. That means that there's more than enough for everybody. Most people are defaulted into, there's not enough team, there's not enough money, don't have enough time. And when I start opening up that conversation and they start seeing in reality what's possible, it's so exciting when you see the light bulb go on and then they get into action. And first they get hope. Then they go, I want to play and I want to get this done. And then they get beer muscles, I call it. Like I remember when I used to drink, like when I drank beer, I used to think that I could do anything, right? And that's why I call it beer muscles. So it's like you start getting this momentum and it's like, hey, give me more. And then you see the after effect because you come to, like, we're going to Turks and Caicos this year with our top providers and celebrating the year, and we go to Caribbean every year. It's just, we do that kind of stuff, and that's what's available once you start getting into the mix of possibility here. So, I love what you said this time, Steve, bring your impossible situation to the call. And look, bring nothing to the call and just go, Gary, my other favorite ones are, I don't even know what I want to talk about. I go, let's take a look. And then I start pulling strings. And then before you know it, we're having this really rich conversation and people leave with like, wow, I can actually do this. And they have a plan. They leave with a plan right in that half hour. So here's the thing I want to leave people with. You know, you always ask me for like, what is the quote?
Mm-hmm.
Your peace of mind, your eliminating dread starts with taking an action to creating a better future. And let me just paint this picture real quickly for you, Steve. If I know I'm going on vacation tomorrow, that's giving me, you know, the day before you go on a vacation, you ever notice you're lighter, you get more stuff done, things go pretty well most of the time? It's because the future you're living into is that you're on vacation, but you're not there yet. Now, fast forward to that vacation, you're on your last day. Do you ever live in dread on the last day of your vacation, knowing you're going back to work? Do you ever have that feeling, Steve?
When I have to leave vacation, I dread going back.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's proof, scientific proof that your future gives you your way of being and mindset in the present time. When you have a future you live into that you know is possible, all of a sudden your today gets better. And so how do we do that?
Keep it simple. I've seen that. There you go.
So I'm bringing out the keep it simple.
Good advice.
Life has gotten so complex.
Yeah.
Just do the things you need to do. Don't focus on all these external things. Take the actions, get on the court. And I'm telling you, in a day, your whole world would change no matter what kind of baggage you're dealing with right now.
Well, and you know, you and I we've had this conversation. We both talk to dentists, practice owners every day. And right now, especially, there is just this sense of, you know, back to past recessions and past turmoil, whether it's economic or social. There's just this, all right, I'm going to wait and see what happens, and then I'm going to figure out what to do. And, you know, that's the last thing you need to do. If you're going to be practicing 5 years from now, you need to be working on your practice today, start today, and not start 2 years or 3 years from now. So the little box is up. Anybody who clicks, I know you give 10 sessions. You set aside a month, like a day for half-hour sessions for our people, and they can schedule a call with you at you know, their convenience and your convenience. You know, you're not going to call them tonight, I guess, unless they want to talk tonight.
Well, they can click through and then get there's options there.
Yeah, and whatever works out. And I think you're right. I would suggest anybody who's listening, get the book, kind of go through it and wrap it with your practice and find that thing. And I really do throw a curveball to Gary. I promise you, he will be able to name, and I know a few of them, he'll be able to name somebody and say, you know, Dr. Donna Williams. So, you know, I always love her story. So you're struggling and you really want to take off. What does she take off? 2 months every year?
8 weeks. Yeah.
8 weeks in the summer. So you can go do something to, you know, help humanity in Africa, where your dad took you when he was in the Peace Corps. And, you know, your first thought is, well, there you go. Now I got to sell my house, lower my income. The first year she did it, I think she doubled her production and took 2 months off.
Exactly.
So throw a curveball like that at Gary. Now, if you want to buy, you know, a new 911 and work half the time, and I mean, I'm not saying that's not possible, but really anything's possible, isn't it? You can reverse engineer to whatever you need. Here's the thing: you'll know what it is that you need.
Yeah, and if we can't do it, Steve, if we can't do it, we know who to get you to get that done. Yeah. You know, we'll also say, look, man, I'm not your guy. Here's the guy that you want or gal to do that. You know, we have all the resources. So this was amazing, Steve. Thank you for the privilege. Really good stuff.
Likewise, okay, last item on the board here. We are not finished. We're going to do 2 bonus chapters. You want to share what those are?
The 5 places money is hidden in plain sight in your practice.
Okay.
And then we're finishing the year with find the money, get the money, keep the money. That's how it's going to go.
And I'll pop those up. I'll make sure those are in show notes for anybody who wants to watch a replay, which we always offer. Or they can, when they click through to contact you. I know your people are very good at sort of coordinating that, so they can talk to you and they can ask them for any kind of resources they want. So, Gary, as always, it's a pleasure. We went a little long, but that's okay. It's always good stuff. I'm glad we had some return viewers, some binge watchers. And if you haven't seen the other episodes, I would suggest you just watch them as you can. Each one is full of a lot of nuggets, but more importantly, it's full of sort of an attitude and an approach. So, Gary, I appreciate you. Got any other last minutes? I've got 3 new Garyisms I don't have.
Oh,
you got any new ones?
Yeah, I do. Here's the other one. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Henry Ford.
Perfect. One of my all-time favorites. So practice owners, with that, we're going to wrap it up. There's a link to get the book. There's a link to get some time with Gary just to talk about anything you want. And I would encourage you to do both of those. And then we'll roll out when the next 2 bonus chapters are available, bonus episodes. And with that, Gary, I think we'll call this one to a close. Good seeing you again. Can't wait till next month.
You bet. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
See you, practice owners.